Chair recognizes that the Lenore County Board of Education has established a quorum and calls the December 6, 2021 regular board meeting to order. Chair recognizes Mr. Nick Harvey.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Let us pray. May the words spoken in this room tonight be beneficial to the students, parents, staff, and administrators in our school system. And may we be led by the guiding principle to always base our decisions on the best interests of our young people. Amen.
Amen. Thank you, Mr. Harvey. Please join me in the pledge of allegiance.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay, so it is our meeting, our December meeting, and that is when we establish or have elections for chair and vice chair. So the chair relinquishes chairmanship of the Lenore County Board of Education to Mr. Brent Williams for the purpose of conducting the election of board chair.
Thank you, Mr. Hill. In accordance with policy 220, election of officers, organization of the board shall be organized at the first meeting in December of each year, as you know. At that time, a chair and vice chair will be elected. We'll begin, as Mr. Hill noted, with the election of the chair of the Lenore County Board of Education, and then I will turn it over to the newly elected chair, and that person will continue with the process in electing a vice chair. Now, the process will be this, and it's the same one we've always used. We'll begin with opening the floor to nominations for board chair for this board, and if one nomination is made, one name is offered, then we will proceed with that and look for a second, and just with verbal votes, and we'll take the vote after a second is made to the nomination. If two or more names are offered, we will revert to the other process, and that is one of the ballots, the written ballots. Those written ballots will be completed by each board member. At that time, they must be signed, and we'll pass them along to our board attorney, Ms. Carolyn Murkison, who will tabulate the votes and announce the winner of the process. Okay? All right, at this time, I will ask for nominations for the chair of the Lenore County Board of Education. Do I hear any nominations?
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
Mr. Bruce Hill.
Mr. Woods has nominated Mr. Bruce Hill. Do I hear any other nominations? Hearing none, do I hear a second?
Second.
Okay, Mr. Woods made the nomination. Mr. Smith seconded the nomination. All right, at this time, we'll proceed to the vote. All those in favor of Mr. Bruce Hill as chair of the Lenore County Board of Education, say aye.
Aye.
All those in opposition, nay. The ayes have it. So, Mr. Hill, congratulations. You are re-elected to serve as board chair for the Lenore County Board of Education. Thank you, sir. I will pass it back to you in accordance with our policy.
Thank you, Mr. Williams, and I would like to thank the board members for your support and the opportunity to serve as chair. Okay, now we will open the floor for nominations for vice chair. Yes, sir, Mr. Woods.
I nominate Mr. Walter Anderson.
Mr. Woods has nominated Mr. Walter Anderson. Are there any more nominations for vice chair? Okay, hearing none, do we have a second?
Second.
Got a second. All right, so we got a nomination and a second. All right, then we will close the floor for nominations for vice chair. All in favor of electing Walter Anderson vice president, please signify by raising your right hand. All opposed, like sign. Mr. Anderson has been elected and will serve as vice chair. Congratulations, Mr. Anderson.
Thank you, sir.
Okay, Chair recognizes Mr. Brent Williams to present the agenda for tonight's meeting.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. At this time, it's my honor and privilege to present to you for your consideration and hopefully your approval tonight's agenda.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Williams. Is there a recommendation or a motion pertaining to the agenda?
Move to set the agenda as presented.
Motion by Mr. Davis. Is there a second?
Second.
Second by Mr. Anderson.
I'll second.
Okay. So we have a motion by Mr. Davis and a second by Mr. Anderson to approve the board agenda as presented. Is there any discussion? Not hearing none, we'll call for the vote. All in favor of the motion as stated, please signify by raising your right hand. All opposed, like sign. Motion carries. The agenda is set for tonight. Thank you. Okay, next is board chair comments. Okay. Thank you, sir. Next is board chair comments, and I do have a couple things that I would like to. First of all, I'd like to recognize, we generally have a practice of recognizing our elected officials, and I do see Mr. Preston Harris is with us tonight. He is actually the liaison before the county commissioners for the school board, so we do welcome you, Mr. Harris. I don't recognize any other elected officials. All right. We would like to thank everyone for adhering to board policy and wearing face covering while in all the Lenore County Public School facilities. We would like to request that board members and presenters please speak up, as it is difficult sometimes to hear what someone is saying when they are wearing a face covering. We have a full agenda for tonight, and I would ask that each board member have their questions ready for our presenters. I would also ask that you request to be recognized before your questions. This will help facilitate an orderly, timely, efficient, and effective meeting. We would like to continue to thank all of the staff and employees, regardless of job description, of the Lenore County Public School System for the outstanding commitment, dedication, and hard work that has gone and continues to go into making the students of Lenore County Public School as successful as possible under the extraordinary circumstances that existed during the last school year and continues to exist during the current school year. We want to assure all stakeholders that Lenore County Board of Education and the administration will commit to trying to do everything possible to provide for a safe and healthy environment for students, staff, and our community. We not only want to provide a quality education for students, but also a safe environment for our teachers and staff to foster learning and success. We are grateful that tonight that we're in a position to be able to offer much needed bonuses for all Lenore County Public School employees and much needed salary adjustments for all classified employees. The administration will make presentation explaining these proposals. We had several administrators, principals, teachers, and students to present at the North Carolina Department of Public Instruction inaugural Accelerate, Invigorate, and Motivate Instructional Conference. The administration will make a presentation tonight highlighting these sessions. And last but not least, we would like to wish all Lenore County Public School staff and employees a safe and Merry Christmas and a safe and Happy New Year. That concludes my comments. Chair recognizes Mr. Brent Williams for his report.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. The holiday season is upon us, as the chair noted. It is a busy time in our schools, a lot of activity, a lot of programs, and most of all, a lot of hard work and learning in our classrooms by our dedicated teachers and students. We have much to celebrate. Our teachers continue to write grants and receive grants at a greater pace than any other previous year. This continues with a trend, a 5 straight year trend. We're on pace to break last year's record, and I'm so pleased and thankful for our teachers. The chamber grants will be awarded this week. The Bright Ideas state level grants. Since our last meeting, I attended that luncheon in Raleigh with our teachers, and we had more winners than any single district in North Carolina, and we've been as high as 8 in the state before, but we've never been number 1. But our teachers are achieving at an unprecedented rate, and we couldn't be any more excited or proud of them. Just thankful for them and the value-added contributions that they're adding to get extra learning opportunities for our kids in our classrooms. So proud of them. As Mr. Hill noted, our kids have had the opportunity to showcase innovation that's happening in our schools, And in our classrooms, just a few weeks ago, the North Carolina School Boards Association yearly conference in Greensboro, we had teachers and administrators present there. We had actually 11 presentations that we made there. We're very proud of that. Our previous record had been 6, and very proud of that. In the North Carolina Principals and Assistant Principals Association conference 2 weeks ago, our administrators and teachers presented. We were very proud of them. We had 2 presentations there. And then last week, the North Carolina Department of Public Instruction in their first conference called AIM Conference. And NCDPI didn't have a conference for 2 years during the pandemic, but they brought the conference back this year. It's been renamed AIM Conference. It's a little bit of what used to be the Closing the Gap Conference, a little bit of the Accountability Conference, but it's a solidly instructional conference. And we were very proud that we had not only administrators and teachers there, but most important, we had our students there. We had 2 teams of students there. Students, our STEM students, we had LaGrange Elementary School students there from the STEM Club. We had students from our computer engineering classes at high schools there. And we're just so proud of our kids, and they were showing everybody from the North Carolina State Superintendent Catherine Truitt, showing her what they're doing, what they're learning, showing her the coding, showing her the high school, the elementary school students were showing her how to write code, and showing her about robotics and what they're learning in the classes. The high school students were showing her what happens when they detect problems in coding, and how they are learning to detect problems like they would in the real world setting out on the job, and to correct those coding errors in the workplace. So real world skills by our students, just so excited of them and their achievements, and the fact that Lenoir County Public Schools literally was one of only 2 school systems in the Southeast region to showcase in Raleigh last week, and just very, very proud of that. Tonight it's my honor to recognize several of our students and a staff member. First, the North Carolina School Boards Association announced the following elementary poster contest honorable mentions from Lenoir County Public Schools. This was held in conjunction with the conference I mentioned earlier, the North Carolina School Boards Association Annual Conference for Board Member Development. Students were asked to create posters expressing their thoughts and ideas about their return to school. Students that place or earn an honorable mention will have their artwork, name, grade level, school, and school district posted on the NCSBA's website and social media platforms. The conference was held in Greensboro this past November. Lenoir County Public Schools have the following honorable mentions. And when you look at the artwork, we're going to hold that up when the students come forward. It's really amazing what our kids have done. Just couldn't be any more proud of you. You did great. And when they come forward, we have a certificate for them. I want to ask those in the audience, let's let them know how proud we are of them with some really strong applause, okay? So, first,
A little bit early.
right on time. So, first, and I'll call all the names, and when they all come up, then we'll present these certificates. And if you will, when they come forward, when the students come forward, parents, if you're here, if you'll stand, we'd like to applaud you too. So as they're coming forward, we can applaud. And guys, when you come forward, stand right up here, and I'll call all the names, and then we'll go up and get arranged. And Mr. Holmes wants to take a picture, and we want to present you with their certificate, okay? All right. From Catania Savannah K-8 School, Savannah Andrade. Did I pronounce that correctly? Okay, let's congratulate Savannah tomorrow. From LaGrange Elementary School, Naomi Inamorado, 3rd grade. Naomi, please come forward. Okay. And Jamiria Randolph, 5th grade. From Northeast Elementary School, Darian Jones, 1st grade. Christopher Belmont, 1st grade. Christopher? Christopher here. I need some assistance with this. Jesse, would you be my,
I can.
would you be my assistant? And maybe Nicole, would you help out too? I'd really like for the folks in attendance to see when we're presenting, for them to see.
This is so cute.
Hundreds and hundreds of these were presented, were submitted at the state conference, and these kids have gotten at honorable mention, and we just need to celebrate them.
I love it.
Christopher? Christopher, congratulations. Okay, Derek? Congratulations. Great job. And Naomi? Good work, good work. Okay? Mr.
Got a picture right there.
Jeff?
Yes.
Great job. Okay. All right, and moving on, recognizing our teachers, our students, and one of our staff members. LCPS 4th and 5th graders shown lately in the annual Young Poets Contest sponsored by the Friends of the Library for Kinston-Lenore County Public Library. This year, the contest drew 262 entries. 20 students have been chosen to read their poems at awards night on December the 9th. That's always one of my favorite evenings. If you can go, please go down and you won't be sorry. It's just a wonderful, heartwarming night to hear those children reading their award-winning poetry down at the public library. 16 of the winners are from LCPS elementary schools. The 4th graders among them are Layla Gallegos, Northwest Elementary School; Jalen Davis, Banks Elementary School; Memphis Stansel, Contentnia Elementary K-8 School; Adriana Schoonfeld, Banks Elementary School; Yorli Yanez, Pink Hill Elementary School; Jakarta Brown, Banks Elementary; and Ella Grace White, Pink Hill Elementary. The 5th graders honored are Davin J. Hall, Southwood Elementary; Janaya Jones, Southeast Elementary School; Layla Edwards, Banks Elementary School; Hudson Horton, Banks Elementary; Michaela Stallings, Northwest Elementary School; Isabella Murrell, Northwest Elementary School; Braxton Pelletier, Banks Elementary School; Rajamir Turner, LaGrange Elementary; and Jamie Dillahunt, Northwest Elementary. We will bring these students in next month. This information is just dropped, but we wanted to celebrate it as soon as we got it, bring it to you, and just give a shout out to them, and we'll bring them in yet next month for recognition. LCPS's 2021 Teacher of the Year, Ms. Daryl Ann Tower, is one of 30 teachers from across the state of North Carolina to be selected as members of the North Carolina Department of Public Instruction's Teacher Leadership Council, the TLCs. As a member of this organization, Ms. Towery will work with the State Superintendent Catherine Truitt and other NCDPI leaders and network with teacher leaders from throughout North Carolina. Congratulations to Ms. Towery on her selection and to DPI on their good judgment in selecting her for this honor. Ms. Towery, we'd like for you to come forward, please. Ms. Towery is our, let's back up here. Ms. Towery is our Teacher of the Year, and she did well. I'm told she did very well in the regional competition, and this is certainly a statewide honor. And I'd like to give her the opportunity to share with you, members of the board, and members of the audience here, anything that she'd like to know about her experiences so far in representing our district and in the competition as well.
Sure. I think my favorite part has just been able to represent a community that really shaped me into who I am, and I am so thankful that I get to put into these kids and watch them grow, and we're going to see big things come from them. So I'm just very excited to get Lenore County's name out there and show them that just because we have a lot of kids who come from, high poverty situations, that they are really taking education to the next level. So I'm very proud to.
Well, we appreciate you, and congratulations for being one of the top 30 in the state of North Carolina, and she'll continue this throughout 2022, at least throughout this school year, and I'm told the calendar year, I believe, representing Lenore County Public Schools at the state level. So congratulations. Let's give her Thank you, Mr. Chairman. That concludes my report.
Okay, any questions or comments from Mr. Williams? All right, thank you, Mr. Williams, for your report. I would like to recognize Mayor Don Hardy, who has joined us for our meeting. I appreciate you to come be with us. Thank you, sir.
Thank you, Mr. Chair.
All right, next portion of the agenda is public comment. We do have 5 people who have signed up. So, if y'all been here before, know I am not a very good name pronunciator. I cannot do what Mr. Williams just did. So I will go ahead and apologize if I do not say your name correctly. It is, it's not intentional, but I'll do my best. So we've got, first, who has signed up to speak is Miss Josie Stewart. Did I get that correct? No? Okay.
She was here for. She's for. Yeah.
She was one of the parents. Okay. All right. So next, and I'm not even going to attempt, but Marlene, I guess she was one of the. Is there someone here by the first name of Marlene? And I apologize if I. Marquesco? Was she a parent also? Okay. All right. Now, the next person on the list is Mr. Jonathan Britt.
I'm here.
Thank you. I'm Jonathan Britt, parent of 2 LCPS students. Since early October, 9 surrounding counties and the city school system have moved to optional masking. This board is yet to acknowledge the individual rights of our students, teachers, and parents to make this personal health care decision. If prior meetings are any indication, Mr. Anderson's already getting excited about his motion to continue forced masking. Then enough for the rest of you will throw your votes behind him and leave here believing, or at least wanting others to believe, that you might be keeping people safe. With no material evidence of improved safety or evidence that optional masking has led to a rise in cases in surrounding counties, this one-size-fits-all approach proves more punitive and about control than due to a concern for safety. Mr. Anderson personally dismantled the safety argument last meeting when he removed his mask and spoke to the group for 3.5 minutes, shortly after voting to continue the mandate. Obviously, this was hypocritical and out of touch, but what his maskless speech also demonstrated is that, number one, Mr. Anderson is not truly concerned about COVID. Number two, he understands that clear communication cannot be done through a mask. It's troubling that what Mr. Anderson could not do for 3.5 minutes, he's forcing our teachers and students to do for hours on end every day in school. In reality, all-day mask wearing is impractical and ignores the fact that our students and teachers aren't hypothetical subjects in controlled lab environments. Each one is an actual human being with their own personality, behaviors, and health needs. And if this board was in tune with the actual safety risks they're facing today, you'd be openly discussing how to address increased fighting in schools and rise in psychological needs among students. Instead, some of you remain centrally controlled or essentially focused on COVID cases and ineffective controls. If you're interested in how many people still believe masks work, engage with the community and go to a school basketball game. If you genuinely want to improve school safety, it's time to acknowledge, as other counties have done, that masks aren't dictating case counts and refocus on higher risk issues. Considering that your extended period of school closure and forced masking contribute to desocializing our students and fostering these problems, I hope you'll soon realize that the board can better serve this community by operating from a perspective of providing support rather than control. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Britt. And then we have Lori and Jasper Hill, who we assume they were, okay, Lori and Jasper Hill. Okay. Then that will conclude our public comment section and,
Mr. Chair, back here.
I'm sorry?
The mayor has asked if he can also approach the board. He didn't get his name on the statement, but if the board is inclined to hear public comment, that is why he's here.
Okay.
I just rise for one personal privilege, Mr. Chairman.
Yeah, come up to the,
Yes, sir. But first, I just want to say thank you very much to the entire leadership team here at LCPS, the collaboration we had with the City of Kinston, City PD, and our agencies throughout today involving the incident that took place or was about to or occurring. We still have our finger on the pulse as to how we proceed further in safety in our schools. We're here to make sure that we maintain safety and a healthy place to go learn. So I just want to say that the open line of communication is really good, and I do thank each and every one of you guys for putting forth the work. Also, the blast that was sent out also is a really big thing. It's a good deal, so we'll continue to do that. And hopefully the board will continue to provide those resources necessary to make sure that we are in a position to do so further down the road or to do different things with the blast system. So thank you, and I yield back, Mr. Chairman. Thank you for recognizing me having to talk at this present moment in time. And thank you, Vice Chair, for also acknowledging. Thank you, board. Do appreciate you. Thank you. I yield back.
thank you, Mr. Hardy. All right, we would like to thank the public for their time, interest, and concerns and comments pertaining to the Lenore County Public School System. Okay, we will now move to the presentation portion of the agenda. Chair recognizes Mrs. Melissa Lynch, Mrs. Caroline Suttreth, Mrs. Stephanie Harrell, to showcase the use of digital learning in our schools.
Good evening, Superintendent Williams, Mr. Chairman, and school board members. I'm happy to be here this evening to present our Digital Learning Showcase. The purpose of these showcases is for our students and teachers to share with you the creative ways they're utilizing the iPad and the learning programs. Our digital learning specialists have been working with our teachers and students to demonstrate the built-in creative features of Pages and Keynote and many more applications. These learning applications allow students to demonstrate their learning through text, voice, images, videos, and drawing, and of course, without any Wi-Fi needed. Tonight, we will view showcases from Woodington Middle School, where Caroline Sudreth, the digital learning specialist, will share a few examples of how 6th and 7th grade AIG and high achieving students have been working on creativity and project-based learning tasks during the first and second 9 weeks of their AIM time. And that time during their school is the time for all students to work on standards that they might still need help with or standards that they have mastered. So this is a great opportunity for students to partner with our digital learning specialists to enhance their creativity. So what's going on at Woodington Middle School? Here were some of the digital learning goals that Ms. Sudreth has for her students. Number 1 is to create, and provide opportunities for them to utilize their iPad as a creation tool, not just a substitution tool. And we speak of that a lot, even when I'm here speaking with you. Goal number 2 was to utilize some project-based learning tasks for students during this specific period in their day. And goal number 3 is to teach some of the soft skills that we know our students need as they're developing their learning and moving towards the workforce, towards high school and the workforce. So how are they accomplishing this? One of the ways is they've established a Canvas course. This again, Canvas is our learning management platform that we utilize for our middle school and high school students. And in this case, Ms. Sudreth has created a Canvas course for 6th and 7th grade students that are in the Enrichment AIM group. And students go to the course and they participate in these project-based learning activities with Ms. Sudreth. The first task that she had for students was to create a Google site. And her reasoning for this was she wanted students to have a way to showcase what they were capable of and a place to house their exemplary work. So a Google site is something that all students have access to, and that was the tool they chose to use. Ways that they might utilize this site as they grow: they might decide to use this if they want to apply for the early college. These 7th grade students who may want to apply for early college as a 9th grader. They also can use it for evidence if they are applying for scholarships or for the School of Science and Math, college interviews, and workforce interviews. Her goal was for this Google site to really be a place to show the learning that's taking place. I'm going to show you an example of that in the video. This video is also going to be housed on Board Docs, so you'll have access to the full presentation. So what you're seeing here are some of the portfolios from the students where they first are just giving a chance to talk about themselves, tell a little bit about themselves, add some quotes that mean something to them, pictures, and then also have an opportunity to share vision boards. And these vision boards, as you can see in this still image here, this vision board is going to be a place for them to really think about their goals and how they want to move forward. So this is a current project that her 6th graders are working on. Another project she wanted to share was for 6th grade students. It's called the Great Woodington Middle School Food Truck Race. And this was an activity, a project-based learning opportunity where students had a chance to develop their own food truck from start to finish. They worked not only on the visual representation of the truck, but they had to develop their theme, they had to develop their menu, they had to go find recipes, and then decipher what prices they would charge on the menu based on what they're having to pay for these ingredients and materials on the internet. So this was a very interesting project. The next project that they're working on now is called Fill It Up. And this is where they are having a chance to really utilize their understanding of area and perimeter and surface area to work as warehouse managers. And originally, I think she put in here to be distribution or warehouse managers at a distribution center like Amazon in Raleigh. But as we saw in the news, we might have a chance for our students to do that right here in our area. So here's an example of what this project would look like. What you're seeing here are a few student creations, but also you're seeing what the students would see when they log on to their Canvas course. Ms. Sudreth takes time to help them organize their slides and give them the task. She gives them an example, and then she lets them go and do their creation. So this is a place where students can work at their own pace, They can challenge themselves to move forward at a pace that's right for them. And she did ask if her students could come back in the spring to show you some of their food trucks that they've also developed. So here's the surface area and perimeter project that they're working on. Again, just a series of challenges and scenarios that the students then go and they work in groups to complete. And the last piece that I wanted to show you from Woodington Middle School is 7th grade. 7th grade's working on a project called Sweet 16. So all of the students are imagining that they're 16 years old and they're going to go through the process of buying their own car. So we all know that this task is not just about buying a car. You have to think about the car's price. You have to think about the fuel. You have to think about the loan you might have to have, the taxes, the title, the tax, the insurance. And what I love is that piece at the bottom where they actually have to write a letter to their parents explaining what they're going to buy and how much help they're going to need. So, again, this is a very relevant real-world problem that our students encounter and are interested in. So it's a great way to hook our students when they're doing their learning. And here's just a small sample of what this activity would look like. So let's pretend here's what you want to do, and she's just again showing them some samples. You're going to need a title slide. You got to catch your reader's attention. Cars are expensive. Go do your research. Again, students enjoy going to their AIM time at this point because they're working in areas that they're very excited about. And so I'd love to bring those students back after the new year and let them kind of pitch to you guys to see if their letter might be worthy to their parents. And then I want to end with Ms. Sudreth. She sent a small message to the board. This is her memoji she created just for you guys. And we are all very grateful for that opportunity. Ms. Sudreth and I have spoken multiple times about the opportunity that our students have because we're one-to-one. Our students and our teachers just don't have to think twice about the learning that they're capable of achieving because of the tools that we have. Next, we have a showcase from Stephanie Harrell, the Digital Learning Specialist at North Lenore High School. This video will highlight digital student creations using Pages, Keynote, and Sketches School to show understanding within the topic areas. Digital Learning Specialist Stephanie Harrell has planned and taught with teachers across content areas to embed technology and creation into learning. Subject areas that will be highlighted are history, English, math, art, interior design, and health sciences.
Good evening. I hope you enjoyed a very small sampling of the digital creations by North Lenore High School students as much as our students had created them. The Sketches School app was used by an English class and an art class to display content understanding. In visual arts, our students used Sketches School to develop their own anime characters to exhibit their art skills. In English 3, students used Sketches School to create scenes from imagery given in the novel 12 Years a Slave. Students in English, history, and health sciences used book templates in the Pages app for their creations. In the Health Sciences 2 class, students created books to explain gene therapy along with an analysis of its pros and cons. As part of the assignment, students had to add an element to each page so the information could be read aloud to the viewer.
So as you see on the screen, the little microphone, the speaker volume, that's actual voice. When students have that capability using Pages, they have the ability to add text, images, the drawings that you saw, and then easily are able to add their voice so that they have the read aloud or just a reflective piece involved.
Students in our history classes use book templates to create and present reports. In world history, books focus on how barbaric were the barbarians. In American history, books relate information about important events and people of the Gilded Age. Students in civic literacy created books to explain the various parts of government in the U.S. English teachers decided to convert their traditional book reports into their own books. English 3 students created wanted posters and character profiles from different people in the novel The Crucible. Students in English 4 created books to represent the 2 Wesses of each chapter of the novel The Other West More. Our last highlighted app tonight that was widely used during the semester at North Lenore High School was Keynote. Students in math, English, and interior design used Keynote to present their knowledge in their respective subjects. Students from an English 4 class studied Macbeth. In addition to the study of the play and Shakespeare, students had to research world history and British history of that time period, and then create an infographic on a drawing or an image they created themselves. Foundations of Math 1 students use Keynote to create visual representations of positive, negative, zero, and undefined slopes. Interior design students use Keynote to create videos of their dream houses with explanations of why that is their dream house.
14,000 square feet is what I saw on that.
Yeah, I saw that. Be a minute. You gonna pay the taxes on it?
If you want to know what 100% participation looks like in a high school class, just visit any of our classes implementing digital student creation assignments. Not only do students participate in the assignment, but they also work collaboratively with teachers and other students in the class, learn new technology skills, and just have fun learning. Technology at North Lenore truly makes a difference in teaching and student learning. Thank you for taking the time to hear all about the amazing digital creativity happening at North Lenore High School.
Mr. Williams made mention earlier of our student showcases that went to the AIM conference with us in Raleigh, and part of that was an example of our coding and coding curriculum that's in our schools, elementary all the way up through high school. And this is Computer Science Education Week. So across America, people are celebrating computer science and the impact that it has with our students and their learning. And so I just wanted to do a big shout out to all of our digital learning specialists, our teachers, and our students that work so hard every single day to implement these wonderful tools to enhance their lessons and their learning, because they truly do. We see it all the time. We see it on at these showcases. We see it when our students present to us and others in large formats like Raleigh, but we also see it in our classrooms when we go in and we visit. Both of our videos will be available on Board Docs for viewing, and we thank you so much for your time tonight. Are there any questions?
Any questions or comments for Mrs. Lynch?
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mrs. Lynch, for that outstanding display of digital learning type of education that's going on in our classrooms. Chair recognizes Mr. Brent Williams, Mrs. Frances Herring, and Mr. Nick Harvey to provide an overview of the 2021-2022 school year today.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. This is a team summary. We did this last year as COVID response summary, so we've morphed that into just an update from 2 lenses, from the instructional lens and the operational lens. So this is a board snapshot, a small summary from both lenses. Ms. Herring will present the instructional summary, Mr. Harvey, the operation.
Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Chairman, Mr. Williams. Good evening, board members and special guests. We are at that time of the semester when our high schools are gearing up for final exams. This week, students will take all the teacher-made exams, and next week, students will take all of the CTE and EOC exams. The last day of the fall semester is Friday, next Friday, December 17th. Schools are preparing for holiday and winter concerts, and after last week, all of the National Honor Society induction ceremonies have been conducted at our high schools. This past Saturday, Lenore County hosted the first Quill State Writing Competition. There were over 80 participants from all over the state gathered to continue span of school. This is the first year we have participated in the Quill Writing Competition, and because we had the most participation of any district in the state, the North Carolina Association of Scholastic Activities, the NCASA, asked us to host the state competition. Monday, January 10th, the district calendar committee will meet to begin drafting and discussing the calendar for the 21-22 school year. The goal is to present the calendar to you at the February meeting and to ask for approval at the March meeting. There will be extra consideration given for the state mandated letters training, that's LETRS, for elementary teachers as our cohort, or the third and final cohort, begins training this summer and this fall, next fall. We will present more details to you at the first of the year about this particular training and an estimated timeline and details for execution. As we transition into the spring semester, we appreciate your support and cannot wait to share with you the good things happening in our schools in the new year. That concludes my report. Mr. Harvey?
Thank you, Mark. Thank you, Mr. Williams. Thank you, Chairman and board members. I would like to begin tonight by thanking our operations teams for a very successful first semester of the 21-22 school year. I would also like to wish them and all of you a very happy holiday season and a prosperous new year as we prepare for 2022. Tonight I will begin by shouting out our maintenance, child nutrition, and transportation directors as they continue to provide A+ service in their respective departments in spite of historic delays in delivery times and consistent notifications of out-of-stock supplies and materials. Our directors, Mr. Outlaw, Mr. Mitchell, and Ms. Smith, have been very proactive in supplementing these unexpected delays by partnering with distributors from around the state and from neighboring states. Mr. Mitchell, Transportation Director, reports that due to the anticipated supply chain disruptions, his department is in great shape and that our surrounding counties are even asking LCPS for their support in their needs, of their needs. The vision of these leaders is what makes LCPS, the operations team, successful. Our technology department continues to be on the forefront of innovation that support our learning programs, as you saw tonight. Our students are very fortunate to have such a robust technology plan and team at the district and school level to keep our students engaged with the latest and most effective technological learning tools. I thank Mr. White and his entire department for their efforts in student services. We recognize the last 2 years have been extremely difficult for our students and our families. Some of our LCPS internal family and extended families have experienced losses due to a great number of reasons. Our student services team stands committed to providing the necessary resources to respond to the behaviors that are a result of the trauma that many of our students and staff members are facing. Our school team of counselors, nurses, social workers, our mental health partners, and our other community partners, as Mayor Hardy indicated earlier, such as our law enforcement community and our juvenile justice department, are all engaged in helping provide the safest and most conducive learning environment possible. We are in full compliance with our mandated initiatives such as the Say Something Act and all of our required legislative monthly drills such as the fire drill and our semesterly drills including our lockdown drills. With that being said, and I wish our students were still here in the room, but hopefully they'll review the video. If you see something, say something. It is cool to be smart, and it's cool to keep our schools safe. We thank our parents, students, and teachers for a very good start of the 21-22 school year, but we ask for your continued support in this endeavor. We hope that each of you also have an outstanding break with your family and friends. Thank you, Mr. Chairman. That concludes my report.
All right, any question or comment for Mr. Williams, Mrs. Herring, or Mr. Harvey? Yes, Mr. Wood?
I would like to get in compliance with the mask mandate. Mr. Britt, he doesn't have on his mask.
Jesse, do you have any extra masks? We would ask that everyone comply with the board policy and wear a face mask while we're in the Lenore County Public School facilities. Anybody else need a mask? Thank you, Mr. Taylor. Thank you, Mr. Wood. Okay, again, thank you, Mr. Williams, Ms. Herring, Mr. Harvey, for that update. Chair recognizes Mrs. Frances Herring to present a summary of the Lenore County Public School System participation in the North Carolina Department of Public Instruction inaugural Accelerate, Invigorate, and Motivate Instructional Conference.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Before I get started, I would like to thank Ms. Melissa Lynch and Ms. Amy Jones for helping create this presentation for you tonight. On November 29th through December 1st, the North Carolina Department of Public Instruction hosted the inaugural AIM Conference at the Raleigh Convention Center. The conference theme was Accelerate, Invigorate, and Motivate. District and school teams attended the conference as a way to celebrate amazing educators across the state, as well as collaborate with local, regional, and state educational leaders to explore and engage with the tools and knowledge needed to implement promising practices for the betterment of every student's education in North Carolina. Mr. Steve Sandeman, principal of the Early College, and Ms. Elizabeth Pierce, principal of South Lenore, delivered their presentation around restorative discipline practices and changing mindsets to a packed room. They discussed how Lenore County Public Schools made a commitment to lowering out-of-school suspension rates and how that looked in their individual schools. And when I say a packed room, it was. The audience was very receptive to the presentation and asked many follow-up questions. This presentation has been accepted at multiple conferences this school year. As a matter of fact, this is the third time they have presented. Bridging the opportunity gap, innovative career pathways resulting in guaranteed job for students was presented by Ms. Amy Jones and Ms. Brittany Harrison. Ms. Amy Jones and Ms. Brittany Harrison shared how Lenore County Public Schools is leveling up and expanding work-based learning experiences for students to include paid youth apprenticeship positions while in high school and guaranteed jobs after graduation. We invited folks to come and discover how LCPS is piloting cutting-edge, first-of-its-kind internships, youth apprenticeships, and apprenticeship programs in partnership with Spirit Air Systems, Crown Equipment Corporation, the North Carolina Masonry Association, and Lenore Community College. And I do want to give a shout out to Ms. Harrison and Ms. Jones, because the state superintendent, Ms. Catherine Truitt, of all the presentations she could sit in, she sat in on this one. And she stayed the whole time. Ms. Amy Jones and Brittany Harrison, who is the LCPS Career Development Coordinator, presented the LCPS Youth Apprenticeship Journey to a room of educators that did include the NC State, North Carolina State Superintendent, Ms. Truitt. In this presentation, Amy and Brittany discussed how to form business partnerships and implement a system of internships and youth apprenticeships that lead to jobs for students. Our very own North Carolina State Superintendent of the Year, Mr. Brent Williams, was invited to speak as part of a panel discussion for all conference attendees. It was on the very first day that included the topics policy and practice in North Carolina Public Schools. Mr. Williams highlighted our efforts and the importance of recruitment and retention of an excellent workforce. Under the leadership of teacher Alicia Davis, the LaGrange Elementary School STEAM Club and STEAM Club alumni shared their science fair projects, explained Science Olympiad build projects, and showcased the Dash and Dot robotics system. The students explained how the coding process tells the robot what to do. And you see again, the Superintendent Truitt is spending a good bit of time with those students. Our own North Carolina State Superintendent, never mind, I said that already. Hinson High School project lead the way engineering students under the direction of teacher Dorothea Neely gave an exciting battle robots presentation. The students explained the coding behind the robots to State Superintendent Catherine Truitt, who was very impressed with the students' knowledge of how to debug the programming in real-time scenarios. And these are our students from North Lenore High School. They're in the AP Computer Science class with teacher Ms. Rebecca Hawkins. And the students showcased their original apps that they created on their iPads, which was really fascinating and very impressive. And that concludes our footprint and presentations at the AIM conference in Raleigh last week. So happy to answer any questions.
Any questions or comments for Mrs. Herring? Thank you, Mrs. Herring, for the presentation. Speaking personally, I think it speaks volumes of our school system when administrators, principals, teachers, staff, and our own students are asked to present at the Department of Public Instruction's inaugural AIM Instructional Conference. I think it speaks volumes for our system. Chair recognizes Mr. Eric Adams to present the December 2021 financial report.
Thank you, sir. Good evening, board members. It's my pleasure to present the November 2021 financial report. The report presents the summary of the budget and year-to-date activity for all Lenore County Board of Education funds as of November 30th. Additionally, the report does present the adjusted fund balance for that same time period. Also, I'd like to remind the board of the timing of our supplements, which occur in November and in May, which we do plan for and anticipate these variances between the October report and the November report. As you have an opportunity to review the report, I'd be happy to answer any questions.
Any questions for Mr. Adams? Okay, thank you, Mr. Adams.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Now we will move to the action portion of the agenda. Chair recognizes Mr. Brett Williams for a review of the Lenore County Board of Education face covering policy.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. As you know, state law SB 654 requires local boards of education to vote at least once a month on whether their face mask covering policy should be modified. I want to thank members of the board who participated in a select subcommittee, a call subcommittee. We had several subcommittees on various topics, but one was on the face mask policy, and 3 board members on this board participated in that. And we had a very good and productive board subcommittee meeting, and I will decrease at this point, and the board members who are on the committee can jump in, and the subcommittee did bring forward a proposal for the board tonight.
Thank you, Mr. Williams. And as Mr. Williams stated, we did convene a committee to look at and study our face covering policy. There were 9 members on the committee, 3 board members, 5 administrators, and the Lenore County Health Director. After an hour and a half of intense discussion, the consensus of the committee was to recommend face covering optional on and in all Lenore County Public School System facilities, effective immediately, which would be Tuesday, December 7th, 2021, with the metrics of community spread and the percent of school-based population COVID cases in place. If the school-based population COVID cases were to exceed 1% of the school-based population and the community spread was higher than substantial, then the board would call a meeting to review the face covering policy.
Mr. Chairman.
Yes, Ms. King.
Yes, I'd like to make a motion, please.
Yes, sir.
I would like to make a motion that the board accept the committee's recommendation. I believe you said 9-member committee, of which 3 of our board members were there. Accept the committee's recommendation that Lenore County Public Schools go face mask optional beginning December 7th, 2021, based on the metrics that came out of that committee, which were greater than 1% in Lenore County Public Schools, and I guess it would be high for the entire county, is the term high or extreme for the entire county. Based on those metrics, as you stated, we would have at a board meeting as soon as possible to review the policy. Otherwise, starting December 7th, Lenore County Public Schools would go face mask optional in all its facilities, buses to remain masked, students on buses to remain masked by federal policy.
Okay, Ms. King.
And we could probably condense that, obviously, but I do know that masks are, I believe, federally mandated.
Okay, so did you put that in form of a motion?
Yes.
Okay, so we have a motion. Is there a second?
Second.
We got a motion by Mr. King and a second by Mr. Davis. Now, Mr. King, do you want to repeat that motion so we make sure everybody understands it, or do you want me to try to summarize it?
I
Discussion.
need to understand the metrics again. Tell me the metrics again. You
I'm
say
sorry.
1%, you say 1% or
What
what?
was the metrics you were applying?
What was the one?
Metrics.
The metrics.
Oh, the
Matrix.
metrics.
Yeah, what are the metrics?
Okay, the metrics that the committee agreed upon was that if the if the community spread is based on community spread and percent of school-based population, COVID cases, all right, if the school-based population COVID cases were to exceed 1% of the school-based population, and the community spread was higher than substantial, then the board would call a meeting to review the face covering policies. So that was the consensus of the committee. Yes, Mr. Anderson.
Now, is that 1% applying to a specific school or for the district?
So what it is, we went back and looked at the data for the past year, and we used the school-based population, the COVID cases for the school-based population. So if you go to the dashboard, you'll see.
So system-wide.
Sir?
System-wide. Yes.
Yes.
Answer your question.
If you go to the dashboard, you'll see it. It's on there for each week.
Yes.
All right, that was one of the metrics, and the other was that if the community spread was more than substantial, which there's 4, but I understand.
It's yellow, orange,
Sir?
it's yellow, orange, red, and gray. Gray is good.
High,
Huh?
substantial,
The
moderate.
map, the colors.
High, substantial,
Yeah,
moderate, and
there's-
low.
There's 4 levels.
Yeah, there's
There's
4
low,
levels.
There's moderate, there's substantial, and there's
High
high.
growth, yes.
Right.
So
But what I'm
those are-
saying is, you got a flaw here, because right now, if you look at CDC and this community here, it's red. Mr. Chairman? Mr. Chairman? Well, let me finish me
Well,
first.
I don't think you asked him to be recognized.
Yeah,
No, I don't think you did.
okay. I raised my hand.
Okay, if you, well, did you have a question, Mr. Wood?
What I'm saying is, you got a flaw right now, because if you look at what's out today, we got substantial growth. More than substantial, we are in the red.
Okay,
You
you're
say
asking for
orange,
that?
you say orange was the bottom line plus less than 1%, right?
So, yeah, so what we did in the committee
That's not what
was
he's
look
asking.
at the metrics, those 2 metrics. And if those 2 metrics are more than 1% of the COVID base and the community spread is high, then we would call for a meeting. The recommendation was to offer, or was to, for optional face coverings. That was the recommendation of the committee.
Right.
And then the metrics that we would put in place that would trigger, a reaction, or in this case, we would have a called meeting, and the board would discuss or review the face cover policy. So if those two metrics were met, more than 1% of school-based population COVID cases, and so that we got kind of tricky with the wording there, and the community spread was more than substantial, then we could.
I understand what you're saying, but what I'm saying right now, you did this last week, but if you look at today's results, it's in the red. I'm not saying I'm against that, but you need to look at your metrics.
All right.
Could I ask for a point of clarification on the motion, please? Mr. King, you had indicated that your motion,
I'll say my motion is basically what we came out of the committee with.
Right.
Okay,
That the
thank
9
you.
members
thank you for clarifying.
came out of the committee with.
Okay, Mr. Anderson?
My question is, did the committee derive at their recommendation based on the application of the metrics, or did the committee go with a recommendation for optional and then the metrics to be applied going forward? Because what I'm gathering Mr. Woods is saying is that the community level at this moment is red.
Right.
So if you were applying the metrics today and we're in red, it wouldn't be the same recommendation, would it?
Yes, it would, because
It's an
the
and.
school-based COVID cases, if I looked at it this morning, are less than 1%.
Okay, but you didn't say the metric,
you
was
said
and or. And or,
We
you said
had
it was
that
and.
Mr. Chairman,
Mr. Chairman.
Hold on, okay. I'm sorry, I'm sorry, Mr. Smith, I saw Mr. King hand
Go ahead.
first.
I believe, if I'm correct, Mr. Williams, there is no and or. It's either and
Or.
or. There is no such thing as and or. So we went with and. Basically, and Ms. Heath, maybe you can clarify here, I was unable to look at the data from your reports today, but I quickly glanced before the meeting. I think maybe there were 4 positives, 4 or 5 in the school system.
That was 7, I think, total.
For last week,
Last week, not today. I haven't looked at today.
total on the dashboard for
Today, they are-
students and staff, we're talking 9,400 plus people, for 18. It was 18 for last week. 1% of the population of the
Okay.
school staff and
94.
students.
And I thank you, and I think that's why we, in the committee, and please correct me if I'm wrong, I think that's why we went with and, because of how well the school system is doing with our numbers, knowing that we could have a, for better term, explosion at any time, or we could continue to stay low. But we decided, basically, or agreed to, out of that committee, that we would not basically punish our school system that's doing a wonderful job of keeping our COVID numbers down, because maybe the outside population is in the high or the red. So that's why we use the term and not or.
Mr. Chairman.
Okay, Mr. Smith?
That is the reason we had a long discussion about the and the or
Okay.
in the meeting.
We need to say it on the front end.
Yeah.
I
So
did.
what we said. So what we said was we went with you have to beat both of those metrics in order to move it back or have a meeting to discuss whether or not to move back to mass mandate or not. So with that said, and with what was said by what the numbers are in Lenore County today, I would just like to modify that motion.
Good, okay.
Well, we have to,
We would need to have a motion to.
we have a
amend.
motion and a second, so we have to vote on that motion first, correct?
He can make
No.
a motion to amend,
Yes.
but the motion to amend would have to be approved then we could have discussion on the amendment.
And let me just say before that, I'm still with what we said in the committee meeting. I'm not gonna change that. But I just need to add something to that motion based on what we have today.
If you'd like to make a motion as to what you'd like to add, and we'll see if we get a second on that.
Say that again?
If there's something you want to change to the motion, you would say, I make a motion that we amend the motion on the floor to
Okay.
eliminate this or replace this with X with Y, or I'd like to amend the motion on the floor to include the following.
Okay. So I'll make a motion to amend the previous motion, and then I'll say what my motion is.
You have to, as it relates to the motion.
Yes.
What is it about the former motion you want to change?
Yes.
eliminate, or
Oh.
edit? Yeah.
Okay, what I want to add to it. So I make a motion to amend to add the following. Is that correct?
You amend the motion on the floor to add the following.
I'd like to make a motion to amend the motion that's on the floor to the following. Everything that Mr. King said, but just adding that masks still be required for all visitors, for everyone attending indoor sports events. That's all I'd like to add.
Okay, so there's a motion by Mr. Smith to amend Mr. King's motion. He wants to add that the,
For visitors and indoor sporting events.
would,
So we would need, so the next thing we would do is just a motion on a second that, you're not approving this, you're just making a motion to change the motion on the floor. So if there's anyone else who would like to see that change to the motion, so we can have discussion on that, we would need a second.
okay, I just want to make sure that we understood what Mr. Smith's motion was. Okay, does everybody understand? So is there a second?
I'll second for discussion.
So there's a motion by Mr. Smith and a second by Mr. Anderson to add the
To amend the motion.
Amend the
on the
motion
floor
to
to add that masks would be required of visitors at indoor sporting events.
Okay.
And we can then we can, if there's no discussion on that addition, we can vote on the amendment to the motion.
Okay, so now we need to vote on the
motion
amendment.
the floor would be changed, right? We're not voting on the substance, we're voting on whether we're gonna change the original motion.
Okay, so any discussion?
I would like to offer why I made the motion, Mr.
I'm
Chairman.
sorry. Okay, go ahead, Mr. Smith.
The reason I added that to it was because of the community spread. Going into gyms for basketball games, we're inside, it's hot in there, and if people don't have masks on, everybody is hollering and, for a better term, what's the word I want to use? Spreading germs over each other in a gym in an enclosed area. So that's why I added the mask on the inside and for all sporting events on the inside. Basketball season is now upon us. And for all visitors, because again, that's the community spread we're talking about. Bringing into the schools. Other than the children, we kind of have control of the children, but the outside, I think we need to have the mask for the people coming outside of the school into the school, other than the children. That's the
Okay.
purpose for my modification to the motion.
Any further discussion, Mr. Anderson?
Yes.
Oh, okay. So let me, just for some clarification, so, Mr. Hart, I guess I could direct this to you. What is the North Carolina High School Association stance or policy right now on indoor athletics?
They're following the LEA's recommendation.
They're following what?
The LEA's recommendation, whatever your LEA is under is what they.
What they said.
Okay. All right, any more discussion? Okay,
So we need to have a vote on the motion to amend, whether to amend the motion on the floor.
right,
Need it up or down.
that's what we're going to vote on,
Yep.
to amend the motion on the floor. Yes, Mr. Anderson?
That's the evaluation of the community spread in the original motion.
Yes.
Is it saying that out of the 4 levels, what would trigger a review of your optional mandate.
Okay, so when we looked at it, went back and looked, when the recommendation was made from the committee, at that time, community spread was substantial, and the COVID cases were less than 1%.
Out of the 1, 2, 3, 4, substantial is what?
So it's low, moderate, substantial, and high.
Okay. So it was at 3.
It was a 3, yes.
What is red?
What is red?
It's high.
Does anyone know what red means?
It's
It's
high.
high.
Is that the high?
Yes.
Okay.
And what is the community rating today? Is it substantial or is it high?
It's high. That's what I keep telling you. That's why I told him to look at what he got.
Right.
Yes, Mr. Smith.
So just for clarification, in order to go back and review the policy, the way the motion is, it has to meet both criteria. Less than 1% in the schools and
Substantial.
over substantial in the community.
Right.
It has to meet both of those because it's an and, not an or.
Mr.
Before we
Yes,
go-
Mr. Woods.
I'm not saying I don't disagree, but let's get your metrics right
Mhm.
for what you're trying to do.
What would trigger?
Yeah, okay, what would trigger having a call meeting to consider review?
Both.
Over 1% of the student-based population COVID cases and a community spread of
Higher than
more than
substantial.
substantial.
Right.
Or high?
Yes.
Or high.
They're not the
Yes,
one,
or high.
they're high.
Right.
That's right.
So today, we have one of those. If you're saying community spread is high, we have high, but we are still under the 1% of COVID cases on the school-based population.
Right.
And that's what we did. We went back and looked at both of those during the last probably year and compared that when the number of cases, we looked at when the number of cases were high back in September, when we had the Delta variant that came to Eastern North Carolina. We were looking at 200 cases a week, and it was high. Now we're looking at, and at that time it was substantial, and the cases were in the single digits or low teens. So that's where we use. Yes, ma'am.
Could- And I don't want to stifle this conversation, but there is a motion to amend on the floor that needs to be addressed before we get into the substantive conversation of the underlying motion.
Right.
So if we could have a call to vote for the motion to amend, if there's no further discussion on the amendment.
Okay. So we need to call for the vote on the amendment.
On the amendment, is whether we're going to.
Okay, does everybody understand the amendment?
Right.
Yes.
Yes. Yes.
Okay, all right, so we got a motion by Mr. Smith and a second by Mr. Anderson to amend Mr. King's motion. So we'll call for the vote. All in favor of the motion, signify by raising your right hand.
And
That's 1, 2, 3, 4. All opposed?
1:45.
All right, so the motion carries. So now we can have discussion about the motion. If anybody wants any discussion?
Yes, yes, but we'll need to record your vote as well, Mr. Hill.
I'm sorry, Mrs. Mercer.
We'll need to record your vote as well, for the record, on the amendment.
You voted nay.
Oh, we voted nay.
It was 4-3.
Thank you.
Okay, now, is there any more discussion? So, can we get the motion restated? So we make sure everybody understands the motion.
Sure. The motion is that beginning tomorrow on December 7th, the district move to mask optional for all students and staff in the Lenore County Public Schools, and that if at any time the metrics in this county are such that, one, there's greater than 1% of COVID positive case within the school system, and community spread that indicates high, that the board will reconvene to reconsider whether mask mandates are necessary. In addition, masks currently remain mandatory for visitors, all visitors to LCPS and at indoor sporting activities. For everyone at indoor sporting activities.
Okay, does everybody understand the motion?
Yes.
Let me make sure, yes, Mr. King?
And she said, everyone at,
Everyone in attendance, I don't think that includes the athletes.
would that include coaches, staff? I'm
Yes.
just saying,
They're supposed to run on the
I
bench.
just want to make sure we're all on the same page. Okay.
Okay. Yes, Mr. Anderson?
This metrics applies to the system. What happens if you have a problem at an individual school?
I'm not sure if we discussed
We did.
individual schools. Mr. Smith, do you read?
We did discuss that. We said if it was individual schools, that they would address that particular school, because we looked at some of the cases that were, of course, we won't give any names, but some of those cases, like they are this time, that we have the positive in one of the schools, was like one family having 3 or 4 members at that school. So they said they would address that by school. And that, Mr. Harvey, is that correct, like I said?
Yes, sir.
Yeah.
So you're, okay.
By that particular, at that particular school. Whether or not, because the question came up whether or not to, will we quarantine, shut that school down? Of course, that would mean, that would depend on how many cases there were. But then we said that would be addressed by individual schools. If it's kept spreading outside the school, I think the 1% ended up being about 94 cases of the population. Then that's what would trigger the other part as far as the community spread and the school spread, school system spread.
So at the time that we were discussing that in the committee meeting, we were saying we would use those metrics on the school level to, if we needed to have a call meeting to look at reviewing that, correct?
No, on the district level was the call meeting. District level was the call meeting, not the individual. Individual would be handled by the administration. Did I answer your question, Mr. Anderson?
Yes, sir, thank you.
Okay. Well, just to make sure I understand the motion. Yes, ma'am.
He does say the motion.
So if I could just point out from what I understand of the motion, it's a declaration of that there will be a session to discuss under these metrics. It doesn't create or preclude the board from meeting and discussing it at another time.
Right.
In another
I'm okay with that.
circumstance.
Right.
So it just means that when these circumstances arise, we will discuss it.
Right.
But the board could, as a group, choose to meet and discuss it under other circumstances, including whether there's an individual school that needs discussion.
Okay.
Correct.
Yes, Mr. King.
And Mr. Chairman, during our meeting, you did mention if we had case scenario, a large number at one school or one classroom, you did mention, because you're sitting right over here on the end, that we could have a Zoom meeting if we had to rectify a problem if we had a large number of cases.
Okay.
You even mentioned Zoom. If it was that, we needed to handle it that quickly.
All right, any more discussion? Mrs. Murchison, to make sure I understand. So we're going to go math optional for staff and students. But visitors on our facilities and participants or attendees in our events, indoor sporting events, would be wearing masks.
That is correct.
Is that what we're saying?
Correct.
And what about the bus?
That's federal.
The bus is still effective.
The bus is
Okay, that's what I'm
federal.
saying. You
The
need-
bus would have.
You got to wear.
This is concert season too now. This is concert season too. You said sports. I said this is concert season. Schools are having concerts and plays
Yes.
other than sports.
Yes, okay. So we're referring to any indoor gathering, not just the athletics.
But
My
that's
motion
not-
was
that's
indoors.
That's not the motion.
When I s-
My motion was indoor sporting events.
If there's a desire to amend the motion to be more expansive, that would need to be in a.
No,
Okay, so the motion is to have mask optional for teachers and staff and students, and it would be mask mandate for visitors on our school facilities and in indoor sporting events, not concerts. Right?
That was the motion.
Visitors
It'll be in a facility.
Mr. Smith said athletic events.
The motion was indoor sporting events.
Indoor sporting events.
Yeah, indoor sporting events, so that's the difference
That was
between
the
an indoor
motion.
sporting event and indoor
I thought they
concert.
also said visitors.
Yes.
Oh, that would include if you call visitors, yes. For the visitors, yes. That would include the
Okay.
visitors.
But it wouldn't include attendees, well.
That's the visitors.
Visitors at those events, sure. Yeah.
Okay,
Yeah.
all right, any more discussion? All right, all in favor of the motion as stated, please signify by raising your right hand. All opposed, like sign. Motion carries.
Mr. Chairman,
Yes, Mr. Smith.
may I make a statement?
Yes, ma'am, yes, sir.
All right. My motion, and going along with this motion was, not a result of monthly demeaning criticism of this board, but it's a result of a productive mass committee meeting held with a few board members, administrative staff, and the Lenore County Health Director, in which we looked at past and present metrics. I wanted that noted.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Smith.
Yes.
Anyone else have any comments? Okay, if not, we'll move on to the next action item. Chair recognizes Mr. Brett Williams, Mrs. Frances Herring, and Mr. Nick Harvey to present a proposed recruitment retention recovery bonus for all Lenore County Public School employees.
Yes, sir, Mr. Chairman. As we did last year with our recruitment retention bonus proposal, we're bringing that back to the board. And this is also an item that we took to the board subcommittee with 3 school board members serving on that. And we certainly thank you for that. And we discussed the need for this, as many districts are doing. And we are able to use recovery funds for this. And many, I would say most districts in the state are doing this as recruitment retention. We are in an unprecedented time with the number of teacher vacancies in this and the other 114 school systems across the state. Our teachers have worked very hard, our principals and other staff members, custodians, our bus drivers, cafeteria workers, social workers, nurses, whatever someone's role is in the school system, they're working very, very hard, and certainly we appreciate them. This proposal for a recruitment retention bonus is simply an affirmation, an expression, a symbolic expression to them from this Board of Education and from this school system that they are appreciated. This is an affirmation of the hard work that they've done since the beginning of the COVID-19 pandemic. And it certainly is something to many businesses. Now, if we look at it in the real world sense, through the real world lens, many businesses are offering very high initial recruitment bonuses, and some are offering retention bonuses. So it's in line with what others are doing. The funds are there, they're available. You see the cost analysis, we talked about that in the subcommittee meeting with Mr. Adams. He and his team have done an extensive comprehensive analysis. The funds are there. We believe that this is an appropriate expenditure and that it's all together fitting and proper to do for our employees. We are proposing the $3,000 amount. $1,500. Mr. Adams says that he can get that in our employees' December checks. And all full-time employees, for part-time employees it will be prorated on a percentage basis, depending on the percentage of their employment. But all full-time LCPS employees, the $3,000 bonus, that's our proposal. And to pay out $1,500 in the December check and $1,500 at the end of the school year. So that's what we're proposing to you today.
Okay, any questions for Mr. Williams?
I move to approve to get it on the floor.
Okay, we have a motion on the floor by Mr. Anderson. Is there a second?
Second.
Okay, I heard Delilah's Billy Davis, okay. All right, so we got a motion by Mr. Anderson and a second by Mr. Davis to approve the recruitment retention bonus as presented. Any discussion? I hear none. All in favor of the motion as stated, please signify by raising your right hand. All opposed, like sign. Motion carries. Now, as I stated earlier, these are much needed and deserved bonuses for all Lenore County Public School staff and employees. Chair recognizes Mr. Brent Williams, Mr. Eric Adams to present a proposal to adjust minimum salaries for classified personnel.
Thank you, Mr. Adams is coming forward. Members of the board, as you know, this has been a multi-year concern for us, and it's been a subject of some multi-year work on the part of subcommittees and board committees of various kinds. It's been a concern that's come up when we've done comprehensive needs assessments for the school system and looking at trying to get those salaries up of our classified employees to a level of a minimum of $15 per hour. And as you know, the state of North Carolina, via North Carolina General Assembly's action, has moved in that direction. And for next school year, the salaries will be $15 per hour. So in anticipation of that, we're asking for the board to support us in an acceleration of that and to go ahead and give that to our employees now. They're getting offered sign-on bonuses and various things in the communities and to be really honest, we have lost employees who've gone to other places. But most of our employees are with us. This is an opportunity to say to them, we believe in you, we support you, and we're committed to what the state's going to do next year. We're going to do this year for you, starting right after Christmas. That will begin. So I guess that gap of the 6 months until the new school year begins. And we believe that, again, as I said about the recruitment retention bonuses, is altogether fitting and proper to do for our folks. Mr. Adams is here. He's done the comprehensive cost study analysis, and the funds are there. And we believe it's a good investment in our people, our stakeholders, our LCPS family members. Mr. Adams, you want to add anything to that?
Yes, sir. I just would like to point out, the State General Assembly passed this for all state employees in the 18-19 budget appropriation, but that appropriation did not include LEA employees. So this is a very welcome and much needed change for our employees. And you did mention it moves to $13 an hour minimum this fiscal year and $15 next fiscal year. So we would be accelerating that transition.
Our goal, our gap that we have to account for is between 13 and 15, not from the current to where we are. So that's what we're proposing.
Move to approve.
Okay, I was going to ask if there are any more questions, but we have a motion on the floor from Mr. Anderson. Is there a second?
Second.
Second by Mr. Woods.
No, he said it.
Mr. Smith said.
Who seconded it?
Mr. Smith.
Mr. Smith, okay, thank you, Mr. Smith. All right, there's a motion by Mr. Anderson and a second by Mr. Smith to approve the proposal to adjust minimum salaries for classified personnel. Any further discussion? Yes?
I will note that this is the recommendation of the budget committee.
Yes, this was the recommendation of the budget committee to do this, yes. Thank you, Mr. Anderson. All right, all in favor of the motion as stated, please signify by raising your right hand. All opposed, like sign. Motion carries. And again, I'm going to state, as I stated earlier, these are much needed and deserved minimum salary adjustments for all classified employees and staff.
Thank you to members of the budget committee and to the full board for your support on that endeavor.
All right. Next item. Chair recognizes Mrs. Frances Herring to present an out-of-state school field trip.
I have not, thank you, Mr. Chairman, I have not had the opportunity to present one of these in quite some time, so I'm a little bit excited about it. Frank Middle School is planning their 8th grade trip. As you know, our middle schools generally will plan a trip, a special trip for their 8th graders. Frank Middle School is requesting permission to take their 8th graders to Virginia, to Williamsburg, Virginia. They'll visit Jamestown, Yorktown, and Williamsburg. The trip will be March 17th through March 18th. And they will be traveling via charter bus. If we could go ahead and approve it This month, it gives the students an opportunity to fundraise. The trip is $390 a student, which is actually fairly reasonable if you consider travel, gas, hotel room, meals. But they do fundraise to help curb that cost. So if you have any questions, please let me know. The teachers, the chaperones that will be going are listed there. I think it'll be a really great trip, so I'm excited about it. So,
Any questions for Mrs. Herring? All right, is there a recommendation or motion pertaining to the out-of-state school field trip request?
So move is presented.
Mr. Woods, is there a motion by Mr. Woods? Is there a second?
Second.
Second by Mr. Davis. So we have a motion by Mr. Woods and a second by Mr. Davis to approve the out-of-state school field trip request as presented. Any discussion? Hearing none, we'll call for the vote. All in favor of the motion as stated, please signify by raising your right hand. All opposed, like sign. Motion carries. Thank you.
thank you.
Okay, one more action item. Mr. Harvey. Chair recognizes Mr. Harvey to present surplus items.
I'm equally as excited to present to you these surplus items for the maintenance department. They are, I
Jump.
think Mr. Billy Davis says junk, and materials that need to be surplus, so, and the money derived from any sale will go back to the maintenance department.
Well, I was going to ask, is that any of that really classified as surplus item?
Yeah.
No, that's
It looked
junk.
like what you said, it looked like junk in that picture. All right, any questions for Mr. Harvey? Thank you, Mr. Harvey. Is there a recommendation or a motion pertaining to surplus items? Y'all want to take a home with you?
Motion to approve the
Okay,
sale.
motion by Mr. King. Is there a second?
Second.
Second by Mr. Davis. We have a motion by Mr. King and a second by Mr. Davis to approve the surplus items as presented. Any discussion? Hearing none, we'll call for the vote. All in favor of the motion as presented, please signify by raising your right hand. All opposed, like sign. Motion carries. Thank you. Is there a recommendation or a motion pertaining to closed session?
Yes.
Yes, Dr. Outlaw?
I move that the Lenore County Board of Education enter into closed session under North Carolina General Statute 143-318.11 to prevent the disclosure of confidential personnel files, to consult with the board's attorney in order to preserve the attorney-client privilege, and to consider matters relating to the initial employment of an individual employee.
Motion by Dr. Outlaw. Is there a second?
Second.
Second.
Second by Mr. Anderson. Have a motion by Dr. Outlaw and a second by Mr. Anderson to move to closed session. Any discussion? Hearing none, we'll call for the vote. All in favor of the motion as stated, please signify by raising your right hand. All opposed, like sign. Motion carries. We are now in closed session. Thank you. Ready, Mr. White? Okay, Chair recognizes that the Lenore County Board of Education is back in open session. Is there a recommendation or a motion pertaining to the personnel report?
Mr. Chairman,
Yes, Mr. Smith?
move to approve the personnel report with the 2 addendums.
We got a motion by Mr. Smith. Is there a second?
Second.
Second by Mr. Davis. We have a motion by Mr. Smith and a second by Mr. Davis to approve the personnel report with the addendums as presented. Any discussion? Hearing none, we'll call for the vote. All in favor of the motion as presented, please signify by raising your right hand. All opposed, like sign. Motion carries. All right, with no further business to come before this board, is there a recommendation or a motion pertaining to adjournment? We got a motion by Mr. Anderson. Is there a second? Second by Dr. Outlaw. We have a motion by Dr. Anderson, excuse me, a motion by Mr. Anderson, and a second by Dr. Outlaw to adjourn the December regular meeting. Any discussion? Hearing none, we'll call for the vote. All in favor of the motion?
Mr. Chairman.
Yes, Mr.
If you're gonna sign that degree, I'll take it.
I'm serious. And if you're gonna sign that one, then you need to sign another one for me, so.
I'll sign it now. I'm not saying the meeting's for me.
It ain't working fast.
Hey, you're gonna get more out of that right there. Okay.
All in favor?
So, all in favor, signify by raising your right hand. All opposed, like sign. Motion carried. Meeting is adjourned. Wish everyone a Merry Christmas, a Happy New Year. Please stay safe.